The laughter echoed off the courtroom walls like broken glass. It wasn't the polite, restrained chuckle you'd expect in front of a judge. It was loud, mocking, designed to humiliate. And it came from the man I'd spent 12 years of my life loving. "Your Honor," Derek said, barely containing his amusement, "my ex-wife claims she contributed to our business. But let's be honest, she was a receptionist. She answered phones and scheduled appointments while I built a multi-million-dollar company." His attorney, Patricia Vale, a woman in a suit that probably cost more than my rent, smirked beside him. The bailiff shifted uncomfortably, and I sat there, frozen in my cheap blazer from Target, feeling every eye in that courtroom burning into me. The judge, an older man named Harrison Burke, peered over his glasses at me with what looked uncomfortably like pity. "Ms. Walsh, do you have documentation of your contributions to Sterling Tech Solutions?" My throat closed up. Documentation. Legal proof. All things that were locked in Derek's office, filed under his name, protected by passwords I no longer had access to. I kept the books in the early years, Your Honor. I managed payroll, handled client relations. I was there for every. "But you have no documentation," Derek interrupted, that smirk still plastered on his face. "Because you were support staff, Sarah. I appreciate what you did. Answering phones is important, but let's not pretend you built this company. I did. My degree from MIT did. My vision did. Have you ever watched someone rewrite history while you sat there powerless to stop them?" The judge ruled in his favor. The company was his. The house was his. The cars were his. I got the 10-year-old Honda Civic and $500 a month in temporary spousal support, barely enough to cover rent in our city. As we left the courtroom, Derek brushed past me, his new girlfriend, his former executive assistant, because of course, on his arm. "Good luck out there, Sarah," he said, loud enough for his attorney to hear. "I'm sure you'll find another phone to answer somewhere." His girlfriend, Amber, a 26-year-old blonde with perfect teeth, giggled. I stood in that courthouse hallway, holding a folder of useless papers, and felt myself disappear. 12 years. Gone. Dismissed as support staff. Laughed at in open court. That was 6 months ago. Derek had no idea what was coming. I met Derek Walsh in a coffee shop 14 years ago, back when I was 24 and he was 27. I was working 2 jobs, administrative assistant at a medical office by day, bartending at night, trying to save enough to finish my MBA. I dropped out of the program when my mom got sick, when someone needed to be there for the hospital visits and the bills that kept piling up. Derek was hunched over a laptop in the corner, surrounded by crumpled napkins covered in diagrams and code. He looked frantic, brilliant, overwhelmed. When his laptop died and he let out a string of creative curses, I did something I normally wouldn't do. I walked over. "Rough day." He looked up and I remember thinking his eyes were kind. Tired but kind. Catastrophic. "I'm trying to finish a pitch deck for investors. My laptop just died, and I have exactly," he checked his watch, 4 hours before the meeting that will determine whether my entire company lives or dies. "What kind of company?" "Tech solutions. Cybersecurity for small businesses." Everyone focuses on the big corporations, but small businesses are hemorrhaging money from security breaches, and they can't afford the big firms. He ran a hand through his hair. "It's a good idea. I know it's good. But if I can't get this deck done," I don't know what made me say it. Maybe it was the desperation in his voice that reminded me of how I'd felt watching medical bills destroy my mother's savings. Maybe I just wanted to help. "I get off in 20 minutes. I'm pretty good with PowerPoint, and there's a FedEx office 2 blocks away with computers you can rent." He blinked. "You'd help me? Why?" "Because you look like you're about to have a breakdown, and I've had enough of those to recognize one forming." We spent the next 3 hours at FedEx office. I reformatted his slides, reorganized his data, created visualizations that made his pitch sing. He talked. I translated his technical jargon into language investors could understand. At 11 p.m., when the pitch deck was done, he bought me the worst pizza I'd ever tasted and told me I'd saved his life. 2 weeks later, he called. I got the funding. $200,000. And I was wondering, would you want to grab dinner? Not to thank you, though I'm grateful, but because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since that night. I said yes. Looking back, can you pinpoint the moment someone starts to change? Or does it happen so slowly you don't notice until you're drowning? The first year was magic. Derek was passionate, driven, romantic. We worked on Sterling Tech Solutions together. Officially, I was administrative support, but in reality, I was his partner. I managed the books, scheduled meetings, handled client complaints, wrote proposals. When he worked 16-hour days, I worked beside him. We got married in a small ceremony 2 years in. My mom was there, frail but smiling. She died 3 months later. Derek held me through that grief. We're building something, he whispered during one of those dark nights. For her. For us. This company is going to change our lives.
And it did.
Just not the way I thought. Sterling Tech Solutions grew. We hired employees. Moved into a real office. Derek's MIT degree opened doors, his charm sealed deals, and I made sure everything ran smoothly behind the scenes. But somewhere around year 5, things shifted. Derek started calling me his assistant instead of his partner. At business dinners, he introduced me as his wife, who helps out at the office. When clients asked about the company's origins, the story became about his vision, his risk, his sacrifice. I mentioned it once. Derek, I was there from the beginning. We built this together. He looked genuinely confused. Of course you were there. You've been incredibly supportive. But honey, let's be real. You handled admin work. I created the actual product. There's a difference. I told myself he was stressed. Told myself it didn't matter. Told myself I was being sensitive. By year 8, I wasn't Sarah Walsh, co-founder. I was Derek Walsh's wife who works in the office. By year 10, I barely recognized myself. I'd stopped mentioning my unfinished MBA. Stopped suggesting strategies. Stopped trying to be seen. And then I found the text. Amber, his new executive assistant. 26, ambitious. Impressed by everything Derek said. The messages weren't just inappropriate, they were humiliating. She has no idea what it takes to run a company. You built this from nothing. When are you going to admit you've outgrown her? You deserve someone who matches your success. When I confronted him, Derek didn't deny it. He was almost relieved. Sarah, we want different things. I need a partner who understands this world. Someone who can keep up. You're tired all the time. You've let yourself go. When was the last time you even tried? 12 years. I'd given him 12 years. And he was leaving me for a woman who wore the right clothes and laughed at his jokes and hadn't sacrificed her dreams to build his. The divorce papers arrived a week later. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Derek hired Patricia Vale, one of the city's top family law attorneys. I got Jamal Thompson, a kind but overworked public service lawyer who is juggling 40 other cases. Sarah, Jamal said gently during our first meeting, without documentation of your contributions, this is going to be difficult. Company records show you as an employee, not a partner. You never insisted on equity. You're not listed as co-founder anywhere. Because he said we didn't need legal formalities. We were married. What was his was mine, right? In theory. But he incorporated before you married. And the prenup you signed. The what? Jamal's face fell. The prenuptial agreement. Page 47 of the documents, he had you sign the week before your wedding. You don't remember? I didn't. I'd signed where Derek told me to sign, trusting him completely. Apparently, buried in legal language I hadn't understood, I'd waived all claims to his business. The trial itself was worse. Derek sat at the plaintiff's table in a $3,000 suit, Amber beside him in the gallery, wearing Chanel. Patricia Vale presented their case with surgical precision. Sterling Tech Solutions was Derek's vision, created with his degree, funded by his pitch, grown by his leadership. I was supportive staff. Valued, appreciated, but ultimately replaceable. She had spreadsheets showing my job title, administrative coordinator. My salary, $45,000 a year, decent, but nothing compared to Derek's CEO compensation. She had testimony from employees who'd only known me as Derek's wife who handles the phones. When Jamal tried to present my contributions, the late nights, the client relationships I'd built, the financial systems I'd created, Patricia tore it apart. Your Honor, Ms. Walsh was a dedicated employee. But dedication doesn't equal ownership. Many people work hard. That doesn't make them founders. The moment Derek laughed, that mocking, public humiliation, came during my testimony. Ms. Walsh, Patricia said, you claim you co-founded Sterling Tech Solutions. But you have no technical degree, correct? No, but you didn't write the security software. No, but you didn't pitch to investors. I helped prepare. Answer the question. Did you stand in front of investors and pitch the company? No. So, what exactly did you do that qualifies as founding a multi-million-dollar tech company? That's when Derek laughed and said the words about answering phones. Judge Burke's ruling was swift. The company remained Derek's. The house, purchased after the company became profitable, was marital property, but Derek bought me out for $150,000, a fraction of its value. I got the old car, some furniture, and temporary spousal support. The court recognizes Ms. Walsh's contributions as a supportive spouse, Judge Burke said. But without documented evidence of business partnership, the court cannot grant equity in Sterling Tech Solutions. I walked out of that courtroom with nothing. No career, I'd sacrificed it for his. No savings, they'd gone into his company. No home, no future. Just the memory of Derek's laughter echoing in my ears. Have you ever been erased so completely that you started to believe you never existed at all? I moved into a studio apartment in the cheapest part of the city. The building had water stains on the ceiling and neighbors who fought at 2 a.m., but it was what I could afford on $500 a month. I spent 3 weeks barely functioning, sleeping until noon, staring at job listings for positions I was overqualified for: administrative assistant, receptionist, office coordinator. All the roles Derek had reduced me to. Then the package arrived. It was waiting by my door when I came home from a humiliating interview for a $16 an hour data entry position. A cardboard box, no return address, my name written in handwriting I didn't recognize. Inside was a laptop, an older model, but functional, and a note. Sarah, you don't know me, but I know you. My name is Marcus Chen, and I worked at Sterling Tech Solutions for 6 years before Derek fired me last month for performance issues. The real reason? I questioned some accounting irregularities. I've been following your divorce case. What Derek did to you, erasing your contributions, lying about the company's origins, is exactly the kind of person he's become. But I think you should know something. Before I was fired, I copied files. Financial records, emails, internal documents. I probably shouldn't have, but I had a feeling Derek was going to screw me over, and I wanted insurance.
What I found, it's bad, Sarah.
Really bad. Derek's been cooking the books. Inflating revenues, hiding expenses, funneling company money into personal accounts. Sterling Tech Solutions isn't worth $8 million like he claimed in court. It's barely worth $2 million, and it's drowning in debt he's hidden. There's more. Those investor meetings he took all over the country? Many were fake. He charged personal vacations to the company. That cabin in Aspen he claimed was a business retreat? Personal property, paid for with corporate funds. And the IRS doesn't know any of this. I'm attaching access to a secure drive with everything I have. Use it however you want. I don't need credit. I just need Derek to face consequences. You deserved better. Marcus. My hand shook as I opened the laptop. The password was written on a sticky note. Justice for Sarah, 2024. The drive contained over 3,000 files. Bank statements showing wire transfers to Derek's personal accounts. Emails between Derek and the company's CFO, a man named Richard who was clearly helping him commit fraud. Expense reports for business trips that coincided with Derek and Amber's vacation Instagram posts. Tax filings that didn't match actual revenue. And buried in a folder labeled Early Years, I found something that made my breath catch. Emails from the first 2 years of Sterling Tech Solutions. Emails where Derek called me his business partner. Where he discussed equity splits, 40% for me, 60% for him. where he promised to make it official once we're profitable. Those promises had never materialized, and I'd been too trusting, too focused on just surviving, to demand the paperwork. I sat in my studio apartment, water stains dripping above my head, and realized I was holding a bomb. Derek had lied to the court about the company's value. He'd committed tax fraud. He'd violated fiduciary duties to his shareholders. And I had proof of all of it. Have you ever held someone's destruction in your hands and had to decide whether to pull the trigger?
I didn't decide that night.
I couldn't. Instead, I called the one person who might understand what to do with this information. Jamal? It's Sarah Walsh. I need her help. I think Derek committed fraud. Serious fraud. And I have evidence. There was a long pause. Then, don't touch anything else on that laptop. Don't tell anyone you have it. Meet me at my office tomorrow at 8 a.m.
And Sarah?
Bring coffee. We're going to need it. Underscore, 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 underscore. Jamal Thompson's office was a cramped space above a Korean restaurant, the walls lined with law books and the smell of kimchi permanently baked into the carpet. But when I showed him the files Marcus had sent, his tired eyes came alive. Sarah, Jesus Christ, this is criminal. Can we use it? To reopen my case. We can do more than that. He was scrolling through financial records, his fingers flying across his own laptop. This is securities fraud. Tax evasion. If even half of this is accurate, Derek could face prison time. But more importantly for you, if the company's real value is $2 million instead of $8 million, and he lied about that in divorce proceedings, that's fraud on the court. We can get your settlement vacated. Vacated, overturned. Start over. And this time, we have leverage. But Jamal's face grew serious. Here's the thing, though. We need to be strategic. If we go in guns blazing with accusations, Derek will hire a team of lawyers and bury us in motions. We need to build an airtight case first.
How?
You need a job. A real job. We need to show you're not some vindictive ex-wife with an axe to grind. You're a competent professional who's discovered corporate fraud. And we need a forensic accountant to verify everything Marcus gave you. Over the next 2 months, my life became a mission. Step 1. I got a job. Not answering phones this time. I wasn't going to let Derek's words define me. I found a position as an operations coordinator at a small consulting firm run by a woman named Dr. Elena Rodriguez. The pay was modest, $55,000, but Elena saw something in me. You're overqualified for this role, she said during my interview. I know, but I need to rebuild. And I'm good at operations. I'm good at making chaos into order. She hired me on the spot. Step 2. Therapy. Twice a week with a counselor named Dr. Patel, who specialized in recovery from narcissistic relationships. She taught me that what Derek had done, the gradual erosion of my identity, the rewriting of history, had a name. Gaslighting. And it wasn't my fault. You're not crazy for believing him, Dr. Patel said during one session. He was the person you trusted most. When that person tells you that up is down, that your contributions don't matter, that you're remembering wrong, of course you doubt yourself. That's not weakness. That's human. Step 3. I started rebuilding myself. I enrolled in online MBA courses, finishing what I'd started 15 years ago. I joined a networking group for women in business. I stopped wearing the clothes I'd worn when I was Derek's wife and started dressing like the person I wanted to become. And every night, I worked with Jamal and the forensic accountant he'd hired, a brilliant woman named Keisha Williams who looked at Derek's cooked books like a detective examining a crime scene. Your ex-husband is either stupid or arrogant, Keisha said during one of our late-night sessions. This fraud is so obvious. He didn't even try to hide it well. He just assumed no one would look. Can you testify? In court. Honey, I can do better than that. I can write a report that will make the IRS salivate. But Sarah, she looked at me seriously. Once we file this, there's no going back. Derek will know you're the one who exposed him. He'll come after you. Are you ready for that? I thought about that courtroom. The laughter. The dismissal. Being erased from my own story. Yes, I said. I'm ready. When was the last time you decided to stop being afraid and start fighting back? For months after Marcus's package arrived, I wasn't the same woman who'd left that courtroom in shame. At work, Elena promoted me to senior operations manager. You've streamlined our entire workflow, she said. I don't know what you were doing before, but you're wasted on basic coordination. I didn't tell her about Sterling Tech Solutions.
Not yet.
But I tucked away her words like armor. In therapy, Dr. Patel started using different language. You're not recovering anymore, she said. You're thriving. There's a difference. And Jamal's case was getting stronger by the day. Keisha had verified everything Marcus sent. She'd found additional irregularities Derek hadn't even tried to hide. Company credit cards used for personal expenses, falsified investor reports, even payments to offshore accounts that looked suspiciously like money laundering. We have enough, Jamal said during one strategy session. We file a motion to vacate the divorce judgment based on fraud on the court. Simultaneously, I've been in contact with a friend at the U.S. Attorney's Office. They're very interested in Derek's tax situation. Will I have to testify? Oh, you'll do more than testify. You're going to be the star witness. He grinned. How do you feel about that? I thought about Derek's smirk. Patricia Vale's dismissive questions. Judge Burke's pity. I feel ready to tell the truth. We filed the motion on a Tuesday in November. By Wednesday, Derek knew. He called my phone 17 times. I didn't answer. Then the text started. Sarah, what the hell are you doing? You're making a mistake. We can talk about this. There's been a misunderstanding.
Fine. Be that way.
You're going to regret this. Then Amber called. Sarah, Derek's really upset. He's been nothing but generous to you, and this is how you repay him? By making up lies. I hung up. Derek didn't understand yet. He thought I was just a bitter ex-wife. He thought this was about revenge, about hurting him because he'd hurt me. He didn't realize this was about the truth. And the truth had receipts. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for December 15th. Judge Burke, the same judge who'd ruled against me, would hear arguments about whether there was sufficient evidence of fraud to warrant reopening the case. 2 weeks before the hearing, I was leaving work when a black Mercedes pulled up beside me. The window rolled down.
Patricia Valle.
Ms. Walsh. Or is it Ms. Rodriguez now? I hear you've found employment. What do you want? To offer you some free advice. Drop this motion. My client made an error in judgment with some business expenses. Nothing criminal. But this vendetta you're pursuing? It's going to backfire. You'll look bitter and vindictive, and you'll lose what little dignity you have left.
Is certa her.
6 months ago, her words would have shredded me.
Now?
Tell Derek I'll see him in court. Her smile thinned. You're making a mistake.
No.
I made a mistake 12 years ago when I trusted your client. This is me correcting it. Have you ever watched someone realize you're not afraid of them anymore? The retaliation started exactly 10 days before the hearing. First, I got an email from HR at my job. Sarah, we need to meet. There's been a complaint. My stomach dropped. What kind of complaint? Someone called claiming you've been stealing company property and falsifying expense reports. We need to investigate. I knew immediately.
Derek.
Elena's face was troubled during our meeting. Sarah, I don't believe for a second you'd do this. But I have to follow protocol. Can you provide documentation of your expenses? I could. I'd kept meticulous records, learned that lesson the hard way. But it meant hours of meetings, explanations, defending myself against accusations we both knew were lies. The complaint was eventually dismissed, but the damage was done. Whispers in the office. Colleagues who avoided eye contact. Then my landlord called. Ms. Walsh, I've received information that you're running an illegal business out of your apartment. I need to inspect the premises. Another Derek attack. I let the landlord in, showed him my empty studio, Just a laptop, some textbooks, a sad little desk. No business. He apologized, but I saw the doubt in his eyes. Then came the big one. 3 days before the hearing, Jamal called me at 11 p.m. Sarah, don't panic. But there's a problem. What kind of problem? Someone sent the U.S. Attorney's Office an anonymous tip, claiming that you stole the financial documents from Sterling Tech Solutions. That Marcus Chen was acting on your behalf in an elaborate scheme to extort your ex-husband. My blood ran cold. That's not true. Marcus came to me. I know. But Derek's lawyers are arguing that the evidence is fruit of the poisonous tree, illegally obtained. They're trying to get everything thrown out before we even get to court. Can they do that? If they convince the judge Marcus was your agent and not acting independently, maybe. Sarah, I need you to be honest with me. Have you had any contact with Marcus Chen since that first package? Any emails, calls, meetings?
No.
I don't even know what he looks like. The only communication was that first note. Good.
We can work with that.
But Sarah, Derek's playing for keeps now. He knows we have him cornered, and he's getting desperate. Be careful. The night before the hearing, someone slashed my tires. All 4 of them. I stood in the parking garage at 7 a.m., staring at my vandalized car, and felt something shift inside me. Not fear. Not doubt.
Rage. Pure clarifying rage.
Derek had spent 12 years making me small. 6 months making me doubt myself. And now he was trying to intimidate me into silence. It wasn't going to work. I called an Uber, showed up to court early, and when Derek walked in with Patricia Vale, both of them confident and polished, I met his eyes. He looked away first. Have you ever realized that the person who hurt you is actually afraid of you? The courtroom was packed. Judge Burke sat behind his bench, looking significantly less bored than he had during my divorce trial. Jamal and Keisha sat at our table, files and laptops organized with military precision. Derek and Patricia were across the aisle, Derek's jaw tight, his polished exterior showing cracks. And in the gallery, I spotted a face I'd only seen in LinkedIn photos, Marcus Chen. He gave me a small nod. This is a preliminary hearing, Judge Burke announced, to determine whether there is sufficient evidence to warrant vacating the divorce judgment based on alleged fraud on the court. Miss Thompson, you have the floor. Jamal stood, and for the next hour, he methodically destroyed Derek's empire. He started with the financials. Keisha took the stand, walking the judge through spreadsheet after spreadsheet showing the discrepancies between what Derek reported to the court and what the company's real books showed. Mr. Walsh testified under oath that Sterling Tech Solutions was valued at $8.2 million, Keisha said, her voice calm and professional. Based on these financial records, the actual value is closer to $1.9 million. The company is carrying $3 million in undisclosed debt. Patricia objected repeatedly. Your Honor, these documents were obtained illegally. They were obtained by a former employee who had legitimate access to them during his employment, Jamal countered. Mr. Chen wasn't acting on my client's behalf. He was protecting himself after being wrongfully terminated, and he independently chose to share information about fraud. Judge Burke leaned forward. Ms. Vale, I'll allow the testimony. Continue, Ms. Williams. Keisha presented the vacation expenses Derek had fraudulently charged to the company, the offshore accounts, the inflated investor reports. Each revelation made Derek sink lower in his chair. Then Jamal called me to the stand. Ms. Walsh, during your divorce proceedings, what did Mr. Walsh claim about your role in Sterling Tech Solutions? I took a breath. He said I was support staff, that I answered phones, that my contributions were minimal. And what was your actual role? I was his partner. I managed all financial operations for the first 3 years. I built client relationships. I created the systems that allowed the company to scale. I worked 60-hour weeks alongside him. Do you have evidence of this? I do now. Jamal projected emails on the screen. The emails from Marcus's files. Derek's own words. Sarah, you're the operational backbone of this company. I couldn't do this without you. We need to formalize your equity position. 40-60 split seems fair for now, with opportunity to renegotiate as we grow. You're not just my wife. You're my business partner. The courtroom went silent. Judge Burke's expression had transformed from bored patience to genuine anger. Mr. Walsh, did you write these emails? Derek's lawyer whispered frantically in his ear. He stood slowly. Your Honor, those emails are from 12 years ago, before the company was formalized. They don't represent. Answer the question. Did you write them? Yes. And did you ever formalize Ms. Walsh's equity position as you promised? Silence. Mr. Walsh? No, Your Honor. The business grew. Circumstances changed. Did you testify in divorce proceedings that Ms. Walsh's contributions were minimal? I testified about her job title, which was, did you not characterize her as support staff who answered phones? Derek's face was red. I may have understated. You lied. Judge Burke's voice cut like steel. You lied to this court about your wife's contributions, about the company's value, about your financial situation. Ms. Vale, your client has committed fraud on this court, perjury, and based on Ms. Williams' testimony, likely tax evasion and securities fraud. Patricia tried to recover. Your Honor, these are serious allegations that require more than preliminary. Ms. Vale, I've heard enough. The divorce judgment is hereby vacated. This case will be retried with accurate financial information. Additionally, I am referring this matter to the district attorney's office and to the IRS for criminal investigation. The gavel came down. Derek's face went white. Amber, sitting in the gallery, looked like she might cry. But Judge Burke wasn't done. Ms. Walsh approached the bench. I did, my legs shaking. Ms. Walsh, I owe you an apology. This court failed you. I failed you. You deserved better, and I should have looked harder at your ex-husband's claims. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. When was the last time the system that failed you actually acknowledged it? The retrial took 4 months. During that time, Derek's world collapsed in spectacular fashion. The IRS launched an audit that revealed years of tax fraud. The company's investors, learning they'd been lied to, filed lawsuits. Amber left him for a venture capitalist with a more stable future. Sterling Tech Solutions went bankrupt. The assets were liquidated. And in the retrial, with accurate information and my documented contributions finally recognized, Judge Burke ruled that I was entitled to 35% of the company's original value, plus compensation for 12 years of unpaid partnership distributions. I walked away with $1.2 million. More importantly, I walked away vindicated. Derek got 18 months in federal prison for tax evasion and securities fraud. His attorney, Patricia Vale, faced ethics charges for knowingly presenting false information. Her license was suspended. As for me, I finished my MBA, started consulting for small businesses, teaching them how to build equitable partnerships and avoid the mistakes I'd made. Elena made me a full partner in her firm. I bought a small house with a garden. Nothing fancy, but mine. Marcus Chun and I became friends. Turns out he'd been documenting Derek's fraud for years, waiting for the right moment. I couldn't stand by and watch him do to you what he did to me, he said over coffee one day. Erasing people, taking credit, pretending he built everything alone. Someone had to stop him. Thank you, I said, for giving me the ammunition. You pulled the trigger, he pointed out. That took courage. 6 months ago, I testified before Congress about corporate fraud and the ways divorce law fails to recognize women's unpaid contributions to family businesses. My story went viral. I've received hundreds of messages from women in similar situations, asking for help. I help them now. It's what I do. Last week, I ran into Derek's mother at a grocery store. She looked older, tired. Sarah, she said softly.
I'm sorry. I didn't know.
He told us you were being vindictive, that you'd stolen from the company. We believed him. I know, I said. People usually do. He's very convincing. Are you doing okay? I thought about my house, my business, my MBA hanging on the wall, the women I'd helped, the life I'd rebuilt from nothing. I'm doing better than okay, I told her. I'm doing exactly what I was always capable of doing. I just needed to remember that. Underscore 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 underscore. So, here's my question for you. If you discovered someone had been systematically erasing your contributions and rewriting history to exclude you, would you fight back, even if it meant destroying them? Or would you walk away and start over without seeking justice? Because I sometimes wonder if exposing Derek was about justice or revenge. And I'm still not sure I know the difference. But I know this. Silence protects predators. And I refuse to be silent ever again.